You're a busy professional. You don't have time for fluff. You need strategies that work, and you need them fast. Welcome to Busy Pro Fast Wellness with me, your host, Alan Welsh. We're here to give you science-backed hacks and actionable tips to boost your focus, minimize friction, and maximize your results. Less time, more impact. It's time to get well, stay strong, and thrive. Let's get to it.
Hello, I thought I'd take this opportunity to explain a little bit about this podcast with Zach Gurick, the host of the podcast Fully Alive. It's really not just living longer, but living better. That's pretty much the thesis of this. So we're looking at longevity today, and I want to set expectations right at the beginning because Zach is deeply enthusiastic about exploring the cutting edge. For example, advanced diagnostics, AI health tracking, biomarker testing, and all sorts of gadgets and experimental tools. His curiosity is genuine and it's infectious, and at times he can get quite technical. And to be honest, I love that because it gives us a simple glimpse into where the future might be heading. I also want you to know this before we begin the podcast. Lifestyle will always be 95% of the game. So your sleep, your movement, your nourishment, your relationships, those are still the foundations that determine how you age. So in part one today, we go into the science, the diagnostics, and the future forward possibilities. And in part two, which will come out next week, I think, we go deeper into mindset, purpose, meaning, and how to age with vitality, no matter where you are starting from. And Zach also recounts an inspirational story of a friend of his who's in his mid-80s, who manages to perform incredible feats at this advanced age. So, without further ado, I hope you enjoy the podcast, and I'll see you on the other side. Hello, and welcome back to Busy Pro Fast Wellness. Today's guest is someone deeply immersed in the science of aging, Zach Gurick of the Fully Alive podcast. And Zach brings together breakthrough research, futurism, and lived experience, exploring what aging not only means, but how we can age well. In this episode, we'll be exploring how busy, high-performing lives can leverage evidence-based longevity practices without overhauling everything, and how mindset, purpose, and healthy habits can reshape the way we think about aging. Welcome, Zach. I am really thrilled to have you on the show. And how are you doing today?
Oh, well, thank you so much, Alan. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for that introduction, and I'm just really excited to be here. Thank you for the work that you're doing to bring these messages to the world and to your listeners. And so I'm excited to be a part of the conversation with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really am trying my utmost to, get my message across and help as many people. And I know that in your own way, with what you've been doing, and I've listened to many of your podcasts, that comes shining through. Is there anything that you'd like to sort of add to the introduction that I just mentioned?
Well, no, I would just say, I'm on the journey with you and with all of your listeners too. This is just an area that I'm extremely fascinated by and curious about. I've been curious about this for much of my life. I did study biology and chemistry in college, but I've not worked in that field until more recently. And I've always been an athlete. I enjoy triathlons and running and endurance sports, and have done Ironmans and things like that. So I just am so fascinated, and I'm so excited about this whole field of the future of medicine, longevity. How do we extend our health span? Yeah. And there's so much happening right now. It's just such an exciting time to be alive and to be able to learn from these amazing experts that are guests on podcasts and things like that. So that's all. I mean, I'm just excited about.
Thanks so much. Yeah, there is, honestly, there's a wealth of information out there, and it really is exciting. And we can glean so much from these different podcasters, as well as all those brilliant guests that come on, like they do on your show. You're getting us amazing guests. You really are, honestly. When I've listened off and on, I've just appreciated it so much. So thanks so much for that. You are the man of longevity. for sure. You know, you are the pinnacle of that because of all this. You are like a conduit for longevity. I can hear that.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm deeply humbled and just honored to. I always say, hey, if we can help one person and make a small difference in one person's life because of each podcast that we record, then we've done our job. Hopefully we'll impact a lot more people than that, but it really is about each person. And I always also just think about if there's one practical thing that they can go and do. When I listen to podcasts, that's what I'm looking for. Like, hey, give me a nugget that I can take that's practical and I can put it into play and make a difference and feel something different and experience something different because of it.
No, for sure. And absolutely. Practical stuff is so important. And anyway, let's get into some of the sort of meat of the interview. So you cover a lot of cutting edge research on your podcast, Fully Alive. So for someone working those long hours, what are a couple of those simple lifestyle tweaks that make the biggest impact on healthspan? The biggest bang for your buck?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and there's probably a lot. I've thought about this question in kind of preparation for today, but there's really those basic elements that we have to have. It's kind of like the foundation of the pyramid, if you will. So it's diet, sleep, and exercise. Like we just can't get around those things. If we're doing those things well, that's like 80% of longevity. Oftentimes people think about, our genes is what really drives longevity and extended health span, but really it's not. Only experts say between 7 and 25%. I've heard those numbers. That roughly 20% of our longevity and extended health span is made up by our genetics. It's more driven by our epigenetics, which are driven by our lifestyle choices. And so diet, sleep, and exercise. So if we kind of look at each of those elements there, when it comes to diet and nutrition, I mean, we could spend hours just talking about nutrition, obviously. And there's so many different opinions and thoughts. And I've had carnivore, advocates on my show.
Me too.
Then I've had plant-based, vegans on the show as well. And they both are, adamant about this is why you have to be like this and this is why. But I think, just to boil it down, I think there are a few key things that can make a difference. And if you're a busy professional like I am, like a lot of us are, and your listeners obviously are looking for, hey, I'm busy, I can't do all this stuff. Like, what are some tangible things I can do? I think one is protein intake. More people probably, more than people probably realize they need more protein. The people that the experts I've talked to, it said they mostly would say probably about 1 gram a day per pound for men, maybe a little bit less than that for women. But most people are probably not getting enough protein because we need muscle mass. That's one of the key drivers of longevity is muscle mass. And so we probably need more protein in our diets. So think about 1 gram a day. That's something I've really focused on in the last year and a half is increasing my protein intake, making sure that I'm maintaining or gaining muscle mass. So that's one thing. I think, clean protein obviously is important. If you're going to eat meats, make sure it's grass-fed, organic, avoid processed foods. Like you hear all this stuff all the time.
For sure.
All those same basic things we got to make sure that we're doing. Like we can't be eating glyphosate and PFAS and, all those things that are toxins going into our body. So if we can avoid that as much as possible, avoiding processed foods, avoiding sugar, that's another big one. Sugar is like an atomic bomb.
Yes, absolutely.
So protein, avoid sugar, processed foods. And then I think to boil it down to like anti-inflammatory foods. If we can focus on anti-inflammatory foods, most of aging is caused from inflammation. That's a key driver of many of the different hallmarks of aging kind of go back to that at the root of inflammation. So how do we avoid that as much as possible? Let's eat anti-inflammatory foods. And then I also ascribe, and I hear, I think this is kind of a theme. If you look at any kind of different carnivore or vegan, whatever diet people advocate for, keto, time restricted eating seems to be really helpful. And that's something that's very simple for us. If you are a busy professional like myself, that actually makes my life easier.
Yeah.
I only eat between like 12 and 7 or so, 12 and 8, noon to 8. I don't eat breakfast. I do have some collagen and peptides in my coffee with a little MCT powder
Right. Okay.
as well, coconut powder. And so that gives my brain the fuel it needs for the morning. But then I don't, I'm out the door. I'm running out. I'm always running out of the house in the morning because I got to get to my office. I got to get things going. And so having that time restricted eating, that provides my body the chance to have, for autophagy to kick in, which is when your cells are doing their cleaning work, right? They're
Yeah.
cleaning out all the toxins, they're cleaning out the dead stuff and the bad stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're constantly feeding them new, fresh food to process, they don't have time for the cleaning, right? So that's that
Absolutely.
autophagy process. So if you have a time limited or time restricted eating, then that can provide your body the chance to do its cleanup work.
Wow, that's fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. I have just taken on a couple of points here from what you just said. And you mentioned protein. Would that have to be animal-based protein? Because one of the things I was thinking about originally, before I knew anything about any of this, was it could be soya, it could be nuts as a source of protein. Would it have to be, animal
No,
based? No, it doesn't have to be. No.
no. I mean, you hear people that advocate for a carnivore diet. Yes, there are many components of an animal protein that are, maybe superior to plant protein, but you can get everything from a plant-based diet as well. I've tried different diets. I was a plant-based,
Yeah.
pretty much vegan for 3 years, and I experienced that, tried that.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of amazing things that you can get your protein through plant-based eating. Certainly, yeah, yeah.
Because
So
I interviewed a carnivore guy recently, and so we're getting obviously different
yeah,
viewpoints,
yeah.
and as you have from the people that you've had and you've interviewed as well, and also you mentioned the anti-inflammatories, and for example with curcuma or turmeric.
Oh yeah.
That is in itself, that's something which is heavily prescribed by many sources because it can apparently reduce inflammation very much. Would you recommend adding that to your tea in the morning, for example?
Yeah, in fact, most of my family members use turmeric, for that reason. Yeah, the liquid turmeric seems to work well, and I mean it's amazing how much inflammation that can reduce for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, turmeric is great. Curcumin, yes. I mean, but just I think avoiding things that cause inflammation too
yeah,
can be helpful. So and I'm not an expert. I'm not a nutritionalist. I'm not an expert on this. I'm just passing on what the things I've learned from other experts. And so I think every body.
you've learned so much, so haven't you?
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah,
by doing
that's
all of this such a long time,
yeah, that's one of the
you
things
would
that
have.
you soak it up, right? So
Yeah,
and so that's diet. That's obviously super important. Like I said, we could talk about nutrition for hours. And
yeah,
honestly, most people could probably make significant changes in the way that they feel. If their diet is lacking, if their nutrition is lacking, they're missing out on some of those micronutrients, or they're not getting the vitamins and minerals that they need through their diet. By making some changes, some small tweaks and changes, they probably
yeah.
would over time feel a significant difference, potentially optimize their weight, things like that as well. So
And because those small changes, I mean, that's accessible to so many people, isn't it? I mean, you don't have to, it's just tweaks, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
nothing major. It's not like you've got to completely overhaul your entire diet. Just those tiny tweaks that can be applied. And it's just so simple
yeah,
if
yeah. So
people
then
wanted to.
if we want to go to the next kind of key component, I think about, sleep, is foundational for everything else. If we don't have good sleep, we're not going to function at our best. We're not going to be able to optimize in other areas of our lives. And so I think, you hear about this a lot too, but have your space where you're sleeping in your bedroom or as dark as possible, no light, no blue screens before bed, for at least an hour, if not longer. Don't keep your phone by your bed. Like our house is 2 stories. We keep our phones downstairs. I don't use a phone for an alarm clock. Um, you don't have to have your phone by your bed. I think that those EMFs magnetic frequencies coming through. Just avoid the screen as much as possible. Um, and then I like grounding sheets. This is something that's really simple and cheap. So
Yeah.
grounding sheets, you can buy them for, maybe it's $80, $100, something like that. You plug it into the little round part of the outlet. That might be
Yeah.
different in Europe. But you can buy grounding sheets off of Amazon, and it has like a copper coil throughout it. And so it's actually connecting uh, to the ground in your home, right? So then
Yeah.
the electrons that naturally flow from the earth are flowing through that sheet. And so what that does for
Wow.
your body as you're sleeping is it uh, reduces oxidative stress. And so to break that down, it's like free radicals or something you hear about. Oxidative stress is something you hear about. What does that actually mean? It's, imagine like each atom has electrons, right? And if one gets taken by something
Yeah.
else, now there's a free electron or free spot there. And so we have to fill that spot in. Otherwise,
Right.
that atom is kind of, that is going around and bumping into things and making a mess in there. And so we need to eliminate those. And so
Okay.
having that flow of electrons come through the sheet, it binds to those free radicals. So therefore, they're no longer, bumping around and making a mess in there.
Right.
So a grounding sheet that can help you, calm things. It helps your circulation and things like that. You're going to sleep deeper and sleep better. Um,
Yeah.
no screens, yeah, dark
I'd
space.
never heard of that until about 2 months ago. Somebody mentioned it to me, and it was the first time I've ever heard of a grounding sheet. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's
I
good.
mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of a simple little thing, but try it
Yeah.
out. $100 or $80. What do you have to
Yeah.
lose?
Well, yeah, exactly.
I like to, I do track my sleep. I have a Garmin. A lot of people
Yeah.
use an Aura Ring or a Whoop or
Yeah.
things like that. But it gives me a good sleep score. I wake up in the morning, I check my sleep score. How did I do on my REM and deep sleep? We have to get into that deep sleep state where our brain wave goes. There's four different states that our brain
Yeah.
goes through, and we need that deeper sleep. That's where our brain is kind of cleansing itself. Only
Mm.
happens in the deep sleep state, which is the
Mm.
lowest kind of brainwave state.
Yeah.
Um, so we need those deep sleep cycles are most
Yeah. For
important.
sure.
That's when
Yeah.
it's kind of like your brain's like a sponge, like kind of squeezing out all the toxins, and then that gets rinsed out in your cerebral
Yeah.
spinal fluid and kind of flushed out.
Right.
And so that happens during the deep sleep state. So there are
Okay.
two kind of cool devices I'll just mention here that I've learned about. One is Elamind. Meredith Parody's the CEO of Elamind, and that's available. It's on the market. It's proven through trials, and there's data behind it that shows people sleep faster, they sleep deeper, they sleep
Mm.
longer as a result of it. It's just a little headband you wear, and it trains your brain sort of through uh, signals through to kind of put you into those deeper sleep states. And so you'll fall asleep faster. So that's called Elamind. And it's only about $350, $300. And then there's a new one coming out that I've actually purchased, but it's not out yet. It's called Get Bia, BIA. And I've interviewed the CEO and founder of that company. It's supposed to be releasing here in December of
Okay.
2025. So from the time of this recording, a couple months from now, they should be having
Yeah.
those available. And that's like it's like a a wrap that kind of goes around your eyes. It's like a sleep mask, but it actually trains your brain to kind of go into deeper sleep states through. It uses sort of like binaural beats and plays those. And so as your brain goes into those deeper states, it's rewarding it for going into deeper states. And then if your brain starts to come out of those deeper states of sleep, it will train your brain to go back into it. So it's using the signals, it's picking up the signals back and forth. Uh,
Okay.
and then it's also 100% blackout. So there's no
Wow.
no light can get in. And it has a kind of sunrise wake up built into it. So it's 30 minutes before you want to wake up, it'll kind of start to bring you out of those deeper sleep states so you wake up
Yeah.
feeling really refreshed, and then there's like a sunrise happening inside the sleep mask. So that's kind
Incredible.
of a really cool new deal. One of those things
Yeah.
that's coming that I think will help us, and the science, the data behind it They claim that it doubles the amount of deep sleep that people are getting, or increases
Wow.
that. I think it said by like 39 minutes on average, so which is significant.
Well, that is significant. Yeah, I mean, I've been
Um,
tracking mine, so I do know that's significant. I have a Garmin as well,
yeah,
so I'm aware of the amount of deep sleep I get.
yeah,
And
it's
that
nice.
39 minutes, that would be a significant increase for sure.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. So these are like I'm just trying to stay kind of simple, but those are little things that aren't super costly that could make a difference for people. So diet, sleep, and then exercise. I mean, we could talk about exercise for hours too.
yeah,
Um, but just a couple things that I picked up on or learned or even changed my own habits around. Like I said, I used to do a lot of long distance endurance stuff and Ironmans and things like that, which I still enjoy and I'm a proponent of. I still will do those things in the future. However,
yeah,
I've focused when I think about longevity, sometimes that, those super endurance kind of things could be overtaxing depending on your build and your body. And
mm,
you don't want to get injured. You don't want to over stress your body either.
no,
So
no,
you
no.
hear some competing views on that. Um, but I have incorporated a lot more shorter, more sprint type of workouts. And so even just once a week, twice a week, maybe do
Yeah,
a sprint workout where you do between 4 and 6 30-second sprints with about a
yep,
2 minute interval in between, maybe even 3 minutes in
yeah,
between. So maybe a 200-meter dash or um, about 30 seconds. And that really increases your growth hormone. It triggers your body to kind of
fantastic.
shred fat and stay lean because your
Yeah,
brain is thinking, if I had to sprint like that once, I might have to sprint
yeah,
like that again in the future. So I better not hold on to any of this fat, and I better, build lean muscle so that my body will be able to, simulate that again in the future. If you think about that compared to like on endurance running,
right.
that kind of can trigger your body to hold on to some extra fat because it might need it for those long runs, or those long endurance deals. And so doing some sprints, you know, uh,
Sorry, that quick question. Would that be tantamount to the high intensity training workouts? Because it's the same sort of principle, isn't it? Because that's something which many people prescribe as an activity. So the hit,
yeah,
that's exactly the same principle, isn't it?
same principle.
These,
Yeah, same
yeah,
principle.
yeah,
Yeah, those kind of short, quick bursts. Um, and then, just lifting weights, we can't get around. We gotta lift heavy things, to maintain muscle mass, and that releases brain-derived neurotropic factor. So it's good for your brain, it's good for
yeah,
your heart, it's good for your
yeah,
cardiovascular health, your brain health. So and your muscle mass, which we talked about already, is really a key driver of longevity. So we need to lift weights. Women, men,
yeah.
everybody, we all need to be lifting weights, and that's really a key that is. I think it's shifted. It used to be, oh, just zone two cardio,
Yeah,
and now
that's what I thought.
more and more people
Yeah.
are suggesting, hey, we need to lift weights and lift heavy weights.
I had no idea about this until months ago. I didn't realize the importance of it, and
Yeah,
now I do.
yeah. So that's and then obviously zone two cardio. It is important. Probably 75 minutes a week. I know there's been studies done around that, kind of as a driver. Like 75 minutes a week of zone two cardio
Yeah,
is has significant benefits. So a
yeah,
couple of cool things too, if people are interested um, in some gadgets or things like that or tech. The Carol bike I got to interview Ulrich Dempfle, who's the founder and CEO of the Carol bike. It's a stationary bike, kind of like a Peloton, but it's driven by AI. They did years of research and labs to develop um, this technology that powers it. And so it
yeah,
gives you a very, very precise workout and in a very short period of time. So it's only 5 minutes that you have to ride it, but it's within that 5 minutes is two 20-second sprints. But it's adaptive AI. And so the bike is adapting to your power output as you're in that sprint. And so it's pushing you to your limit for 20 seconds. and that triggers osteogenesis and kind of that same idea, that same principle of like tricking your body into creating more muscle and bone density as well. That's the other thing about lifting weights. I forgot to mention that it's important for your bone density as well, which is also super important for longevity. But the Carol bike helps with that, but it's scientifically proven and show and they have tons of data because it is AI collecting all the data and it feeds it through its app, so they can see that people's VO2 max will increase by 12% in just 8 weeks time if you use it only 2 to 3 times a week for 5 minutes. So it's an amazing kind of biohack for those
Incredible.
busy, fast professionals. And
Oh, that's perfect.
it's not super expensive. You know, it might be around $2,500.
Yeah.
So it's accessible, I think,
Yeah.
for some people. You know, if and VO2
Oh, for
max
sure.
obviously is an extremely important marker for longevity as well. So that's our
Yeah.
body's ability to process oxygen and utilize oxygen. So that's
Yeah.
super helpful and a really cool device that makes it easy. Carol
I
bike.
think something like, I mean, there are so many people who could benefit from that, and as you say, the price tag of 2,500 might seem steep to some, but when it's your health, which is critical for your longevity, and you can do something which would condense that time into such a short span and get that maximal effect to that full potential in that small amount of time. That's exactly what we are looking for. We're looking for those fast hacks that we can employ so that that enables us to spend more time doing the things that are important to us.
Yeah,
Spending time with family,
yeah,
getting out and, being with friends so that we don't have to, because otherwise it's like, oh, I have to do all those sessions for hours and hours at the gym in order to maintain my form or my health. So I don't think 2,500 is a high price tag if it's your own, for your mind, your health, your body. All of these things are absolutely crucial, really.
yeah.
Can I ask a question? You're mentioning a couple. The Alamant, the Get BIA, BIA, sorry, but and the Carol bike. Is it possible that if you could leave or send me some links to these different things, I can put them in the show notes as well,
Oh, of
because
course,
that would
yeah.
enable, that would be really useful just in an
Yeah.
email or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
thank you.
And I did get to interview the GetBia Neurosciences founder and CEO, as well as Ulrich, the founder of the Carol Bike. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I can certainly send you those, and they're great to work with. And then the another thing is another kind of cool technology that's cutting edge, I would say, is the OxFit. It's OXE Fit. And that's another
yeah,
thing that's really it's kind of an all-in-one home gym. And so for the Carol bike is really focused on VO2 max, and it's amazing at that.
mm,
And all ages can use it. Ulrich talks about, his 82-year-old parents using it, and they're hiking mountains and stuff like that in
wow.
in Europe. So
Listen to that, Mum.
yeah, there you go. The OxFit is kind of the same idea, but for strength training. And so it's an
Yeah.
all-in-one home gym that's AI powered, and it's going to be a little bit more expensive. It's more in that $5,000 to $6,000 range, but it
Mm,
also significantly decreases the amount of time,
yeah.
and it's AI adaptive. So it's even like if you're doing a bicep curl, as you're coming up, it's
Mm,
adapting the weight on the way up, and then as you're going down, it's adapting the weight on the way down. So you're getting a maximum resistance throughout the entire
right.
lift, and
Yeah.
it has a screen built in, so it's the AI is watching to make sure that you have the proper mechanics and the proper form and things like that. And you can do over 300 different exercises, and then there's instructors built in that you can take the classes and things like that if you want to. But it
Wow.
it gives you a score. It gives you a baseline score. So it does an assessment for you at the beginning, and then it tracks your strength, mobility and balance. And then you're actually kind of gamifying it, so you can see those scores
Mm,
improving, and it'll create an AI driven plan. It's kind of like having an AI empowered personal trainer in your home office or your home gym, that's telling
yeah.
you exactly what to do, exactly how to do it, setting it up for you, and all of the exercises are built into it. And so it's
Wow.
the ultimate kind of AI strength training uh, biohack kind of all in one gym. So that's kind of a cool thing too.
I heard the episode in that one, in fact, where you talked about the Oxfit.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
I listened
Yeah.
to that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
So that's kind of
yeah, that was
diet,
great.
sleep, and exercise. Those are kind of the key
Mm,
fundamentals, the bottom of the pyramid. If we don't get those things right, then let's go fix those things first.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but then there's some other things that I think are just simple and easy and not expensive that I've personally adopted that I think are helpful. And you've probably heard about some of these things, but hydrogen water, hydrogen rich water.
Mm, yeah.
Um, I drink that every day in the morning. I like the tablets, but then I also have the bottle. Um, the tablets are much more, a much stronger dosage
Okay. Yeah.
essentially of the hydrogen water. You're going to get a lot more parts per million of the hydrogen,
Okay.
so it's much more concentrated, and you can just take one tablet in the morning, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it's another one of those antioxidants. So it's helping with inflammation in your body and circulation. I mean, there's thousands of studies on hydrogen water that you could go and look it up and do some research there, but also just try it and see how you feel. It's $26 for the tablets I take. It's a month supply for $26. Drink
Oh wow.
HRW. So
Fantastic.
that's easy, and there's obviously no negative side effects. That's not going to hurt you in any way. It's only going to
No.
benefit. Um, the other thing I take that I noticed a significant difference is ketones. And this one's tricky because it's really important. I learned I used to take exogenous like ketone esters. So they're like a liquid that you would just drink a little shot of. And there's different brands of that called Ketonate and
Mm,
Delta G and Ketone
mm,
IQ. Those are butane 1,3-butane diol, which is it's actually an alcohol. And so you actually have to your liver has to convert it into a ketone before it can be utilized by your brain. So ketones are one of
right.
the fuels that your brain can use,
Okay.
and your brain actually prefers it to either lactate or glucose. And your brain
Okay.
uses a lot of the energy that your body utilizes. And so, if we can give our brain good fuel, then the rest of our body feels more energized too. So it's really important to use bioidentical ketones that don't require energy to break them down. So what I learned from an expert in the field is that those ketone esters, your body's actually using energy, ATP, to break them down. And so it's kind of like not really a net
Yeah.
positive for if you use
Yeah.
it for like a race or something, like you're doing an Ironman or
Yeah.
racing the Tour de France or something. Then yeah, I mean, you just know that it's like doing to your body the same thing that consuming alcohol might do as well.
Okay.
But what I learned from this expert is, you need to take the bioidentical. So it's called DBHB, so beta
D.
hydroxybutyrate. But then you need the one that's the D molecule is the one that your body already makes, and so that's
Okay.
bioidentical. And so it's the D and the L has to do with the orientation of the molecule in space. And so
Right.
it's
Wow.
the right-handed version of it, which is what your body actually naturally produces. So you're just giving your
Okay.
body more of what it naturally produces. And so um, I take a version of that. Go BHB is the company that makes it, and I think they have licenses with a lot of other. Basically, anytime you buy ketone salts, you'll see probably Go BHB is behind them. Um,
Okay.
but I found a brand called Elevate that I use that uses the DBHB version of those. And if you
Yeah.
take it in the morning or throughout the day, you will feel a different. Your brain will function
Really.
at a peak, optimal level, like in terms of just clarity
Wow.
and focus and energy, for your brain. So that I find that to be
Incredible.
helpful, especially also with time restricted eating. Your
Yeah.
brain is getting the nutrients it needs, so it's not telling your
Mm,
body, "Hey, give me more food, more fuel," because it has the fuel it
right.
needs. So it's helpful for that too.
Amazing. And you've really noticed that. So, for example, when you're in that state, you can be entirely focused. You can be in that deep, focused state due to taking the Elevate product, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
you'll feel it for sure. It'll help you be a little more clear. You
Wow.
won't be as hungry.
Okay.
You'll have
Yeah.
a greater sense of focus and clarity and memory,
Wow.
as well,
Incredible.
concentration.
Wow.
So yeah, DBHB, um, ketones, and then
That's
another thing that's just also inexpensive and not hard to get is C60, carbon 60. And there's different versions of that. There's not the problem with C60. There's not a lot of human trials on that yet. So some people
okay.
that are maybe a little, hey, let me wait until there's more trials, maybe don't take that. But um,
Yeah.
I know there's a couple of founders of organizations that have been taking it themselves for many years and have had no issue, no negative side effects or issues. It's another one of those antioxidant
Right.
um,
Yeah.
molecules, and so it's a 60 carbon atoms kind of bound together like a soccer ball, um,
Okay.
and it's also a delivery mechanism. And so some of the ones that you can buy have NMN. You probably hear a lot about NAD boosters, so NMN and resveratrol and other like CoQ10, and this molecule is kind of bringing those to the delivering them to the best places within your body.
Wow.
So that those are a couple things. And then, obviously we hear a lot about hot and cold therapies. So we need some hormesis, right? We need our body to be stressed a little bit one way or another, either hot or cold. Um, you probably don't have to do both, and it doesn't have to be super hardcore. But obviously sauna has tons of research behind it. Cold plunge now is a huge thing.
Yeah, it is for
Having
sure.
even just like if you take a hot shower, end it with 30 seconds of cold, that gives your body a little bit of a trigger to trigger
Okay.
that response that you're gonna get. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
my favorite version of hot cold therapy is something called the Domes Wellness. They created a steam room with a cold plunge in the middle of it, and so
Okay.
you're in the
Wow.
cold plunge, and
Yeah.
but the air around you is 130 degrees, and then you get out of the cold plunge and you go in the steam room essentially, but it's all in one kind of dome shaped space.
Wow.
And so you can kind of go
Incredible.
back and forth, but your skin stays moist. So it's a lot easier to transition between the hot and the cold. And even when you're in the cold plunge, your head, and I find it easier to hold your hands out of the water too,
Okay.
because they have thermoregulation sensors in your hands. So you
Yeah.
stay, you can stay in the cold water longer. So you can kind of do
Right.
more longer dips, like, even I think
Yeah.
the longest I did was 11 minutes or something. Um, so you get this really, it kind of essentially what it does is it resets your nervous system.
Yeah.
So they've had all kinds of
Amazing.
amazing results with that as well. So that's another kind of cool
Wow.
cool thing that's coming.
You've given us so much here. There's so many pieces of advice and so many products, and also obviously activities that you can do as well. So we've really, you've obviously, I don't know, just in terms of just thinking about time and stuff. I mean, I probably like to sort of move on to this other
Yeah,
idea of
yeah.
the
Let's keep
hype.
going. Keep going.
That's all right, yeah,
Of course.
because I mean, there's in the longevity world at the moment, there is a lot of hype, and there's also, as you've talked about, many sort of supplements, and you refer to different devices, etc. as well. From your research, what evidence-based biomarkers or tests are actually worth doing? Because obviously we
Mhm.
need to sort of think about tracking for those people
Yeah.
who can't afford to pay for the expensive ones, and they might be on a bit of a tight budget. Do you have anything on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple that I'll mention, and these are not overly expensive,
Okay.
different budget levels. There's one that I think needs to be mentioned that I think anyone who has any fear about heart disease, cardiovascular disease, has that in your family history,
Mm,
or just is over, a certain age and wants to kind of see what's really going on,
yeah.
is the Clearly test. And so
Okay.
it's Cleerly, Clearly. And so that's an
Yeah.
AI empowered CT angiogram. And so
Okay.
you're actually in a CT scanner, but it uses an AI overlay. So I've had this test done. I have pictures of the insides of my heart vessels, like all the blood
Mm,
vessels, and I can see in there if there's plaque, and it's color coded. The AI color codes the plaque
wow.
differently. So most people will get a calcium test. You'll get your calcium score,
Yeah.
and that's actually not as helpful. It can be helpful to say like, hey, you have a lot of plaque in there, so there's probably some
Mm,
soft plaque too. But there's different kinds of plaque. There's hardened plaque and soft plaque. The soft plaque
mm,
is the stuff that can break off and cause, massive heart attacks and
right.
strokes and other significant, serious, life-threatening issues. The hardened plaque is not actually dangerous because it's hardened, and so it's not going to break off.
Oh, I
Um,
see.
so you kind of have to see, is there soft plaque or hard plaque, and that's what this test really shows you.
And that color codes those different types of the hard plaque and the
Correct.
soft one. You can see that. Oh,
Correct.
wow.
Yeah. So I have pictures and I can see I have a teeny tiny little bit of yellow, soft plaque in one little spot in one of my arteries. And so I can
Right.
do something about that now. I'm empowered. But it's also nice to know because I do have heart disease. Both of my grandfathers had heart issues,
Mm,
my father's had heart issues. So that was something for me. I'm 46, so I'm not that old, but I wanted to know, like, hey, how is this
yeah.
looking? Do I need to kind of be thinking about this?
Mm,
Um, and that test, it's about $1,500. So it's not outrageous. The problem though, in the US at least, is that most physicians aren't, most insurance companies and most physicians um, aren't recommending
yeah.
this test until you already have symptoms. And the
Okay.
benefit of it is to get it before you have symptoms, right? So,
Yeah, of course.
if we can get that done, and I think that'll change in the future, but
Yeah.
that's a super helpful one to know if you have any kind of
Yeah.
doubts or fears about cardiovascular disease. And a lot of people maybe
Yeah.
think, oh, I'm in great shape, but then they go get
Yeah.
that clearly test done and they see like, wow, I have a 50% blockage. And so but then they can do something about it. You can actually reverse that.
You you say they can do something about it. What would you recommend they do as a sort of immediate, quick gain in order to counteract that?
So
Because I mean,
depending on the level of plaque, I've heard of people from, one person I know had this test done,
okay,
had a 50% blockage in that widowmaker artery, so this was significant. And so they give him a statin injection, and that can
right,
actually reverse that plaque over time. You can change your diet, anti-inflammatory, more plant-based, probably, things like that.
yeah,
You can increase your zone two cardio,
yeah,
do more walking.
okay,
There's a lot of things that you can do medically and lifestyle wise to,
great,
yeah, to kind of start to change it. And then you can go back, a year or two
mm,
years later and get that test done again and see how am I
yeah,
doing? I'm making progress. And so you can actually monitor it that way. And
fantastic,
you can look inside your heart, so that's pretty amazing.
yeah. I've
Um,
heard of this test. I mean, I think I've heard it from your program or other programs. I can't remember, but it's something I've never heard of in Europe. But obviously, American that
in the
they
US.
know of this test in the
Well, it's
US. But
not as well known as you would think yet. I think it's
okay,
coming more on the scene, but that's why I always, if I have a chance to share about it, I think it needs to be more
yeah,
well known, and it needs to be something that is much more utilized than
okay,
it is. So that's a
okay,
great
brilliant.
one. I think a DEXA scan can be really helpful, and that's super cheap, like 40, $50. You can get it, at
Oh,
least in the US, you can get a DEXA scan. So that's going to be a body composition scan. It's like a double X-ray. Um,
oh,
and it's low dose in terms of the radiation, so it's not going to be harmful. You shouldn't do it like every day or something, but if you
no,
did it once a year or every other year or something,
yeah,
but that's going to give you your bone density and
okay,
tell you how much visceral fat you have, and
right,
give you a sense of your body composition. So bone density is obviously super important for longevity. And as we
mm,
age, if you look up the stats and use ChatGPT, ask how many people over the age of 60 or 65 have osteoporosis, it's staggering. So
mm,
we can do something about that though. We can lift heavy weights. We can use a Carol bike or an Oxford. There's things that we can do to improve our bone density, mostly around weightlifting, as well as, maybe there's some supplements, minerals and vitamins that we can be taking too, right? So
yeah, good. Yeah. So there you have it. What I personally love about Zach is that he is genuinely curious. He goes all in on exploring the tech, the biomarkers, and the devices that might shape the future of longevity. And just to make this clear, I'm not here to sell you gadgets or persuade you to track 73 biomarkers. My job, as always, is simply to introduce ideas and perspectives and let you choose what actually fits your life. And I also want to say this again because I believe it so deeply. Lifestyle is key. It's 95% of the game. The sleep, the movement, the nutrition, the people you spend time with, those remain the foundation. Now, in part 2, as I mentioned before, we go somewhere very different. We go into mindset, into purpose, and into identity. And Zach shares one of the most extraordinary stories I've heard about a man in his mid-80s cycling across continents. So stay tuned, because in the next episode, we zoom out from the tech and go into the meaning. You're not going to want to miss this one.